Hello, everyone. I don't have COVID anymore. And after a good hiatus here, I have some news to announce. After a long and grueling career as a lieutenant, after countless struggles, painful training, and unending scrutiny by my peers and superiors, I have been hand-selected to be promoted to the rank of captain. And so were 99.8% of my peers. Now, for those of you who don't know, there are a few requirements to hit the rank of captain. Number 1, have less than 2 DUIs. Number 2, don't accidentally or intentionally, I suppose, kill one of your friends at work. Number 3, have a pulse above 0. Number 4, don't have more than 1 DUI. Please refer to requirement number 1. So yes, I'm being promoted, but whatever it says on my promotion orders about trust and instill potential, blah, 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 blah. Now, does this mean that to me, captain is a useless and meaningless promotion? No. But what I do mean is that when I turn on my LinkedIn and I see 10 paragraphs with the person talking about themselves and being promoted, I'm just going to cringe and want to just retreat back into my own body. Turning captain is a weird thing to do, especially now that I'm like mere months away from being there. Being an officer is a lot like a totem pole in the sense that it's like grade school. How like when you're like a little kid and you're like in kindergarten, you think like the 8th graders are like the super cool smart people who know everything and can do anything. And you wonder if you'll ever actually make it. So like when you're a cadet, it's kind of like you're in preschool or kindergarten. It doesn't really count, but you keep hearing stories about your buddy's friend who's in the 1st grade and it sounds insane and you don't know if you'll be able to handle it. Then when you become a 2nd lieutenant, you realize that just because you're an officer now doesn't mean you automatically know any new things. And then you see the 1st lieutenants who have been in for years and you realize that they know so much more than you and you wonder if you'll ever be where they're at. And now that I'm turning into a captain soon, it's weird to look back because of how I did view captains. Captains were always this like far off rank who were young enough to where they would be able to destroy you in any physical PT event, but also had been in long enough to where they knew almost everything about the Army. Or at least I had assumed so. Now, as I'm staring these railroad tracks in the face, it's weird. Like, I'm confident that I will be able to handle anything that the Army decides to throw at me at this point, but there's definitely going to be changes simply because I'm getting promoted. And that's because there are definite perks with being a lieutenant, especially a 1st lieutenant. I really think that a 1st lieutenant is like the best rank in the Army. And I know most people say like specialist or warrant officer type or something, but this is the hill that I'm dying on. Being a 1st lieutenant, first and foremost, means you are not a 2nd lieutenant, which is definitely one of the worst ranks, which should be obvious at this point, and for reasons I will not get into. Typically, 1st lieutenants have a lot more trust built into them. They're seen as competent individuals who've been around long enough to where they can solve problems without needing a bunch of help. Typically, they're micromanaged a lot less. Most platoon leaders, in the infantry at least, are turning or are 1st lieutenants. And platoon leader, at least in the infantry world, like I said, is the best job you could possibly have. Being a 1st lieutenant also means you are a ranking member of the lieutenant mafia of your unit, which is kind of like a lot of the back channel officer stuff that makes things actually happen. And if you're here to tell me that no, the lieutenant mafia doesn't exist, I have bad news for you because that means you were not invited to your local chapter. It's also like the best rank, I think, to deal with like the enlisted side of the Army. Because like, of course, as an officer, if you make the tiniest mistake, you will never hear the end of it from any soldier. But there's not quite the formality that comes with them being a captain because you're just a lieutenant. Junior enlisted and NCOs are much more likely to have just genuine, candid conversations with you. As opposed to like if I was a higher rank and they were worried about the right and wrong things to say in that very moment. And as a lieutenant, you solve problems at the very lowest level, and people are more likely to come to you for help with solving a problem because as a lieutenant versus like a major or something, you're viewed as the person who fixes the problem, not the one who gets you in trouble for there being a problem. But unfortunately, when I pin captain, poof, it's gone. I'm going to miss being a lieutenant. I'm really going to miss the jobs I had as a lieutenant. But I am looking forward to that time and service promotion pay bump though, eh? Now this brings the obvious problem with my channel. For the longest time, the title of my vlogs have been Lieutenant Logs, and I haven't posted anything in quite a bit because my days recently have been spent entirely in my office and writing scripts during my lunch breaks. But I'm not sure if I want them to be called Captain's Log because I'm not like a Star Trek guy. I'm also not in the Space Force, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because their uniforms suck, but it's something to think about. If you have a better idea leave it in the comments. Also, since I'm back, I don't have COVID. I will be posting more soon. This is just a quick, easy one to get out. And with that, I'll see you in the next one.